Hello, Tanya here with a sewing tutorial for the open back halter top pattern. So with this tutorial, I did make some changes in terms of the design. I added some design lines. So this pattern does look slightly different from what comes out of the program as a default. But keep watching this tutorial and you'll find some great construction lessons, tips, and tricks. So here I am laying out all my pattern pieces. This is my back piece, the main fabric, and my lining, and then my front pieces. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially sandwich my lining and the mesh and the main fabric so we can seal that seam and have a nice clean finish. So this is great if you're wanting to do some color blocking on any of your pieces and have those seams nice and concealed. So I'm going to sandwich my mesh between my main and my lining, and then I'm just going to sew down that front seam. And as you can see, when I unfold it, that seam is nicely hidden. And I'm going to do the same thing with the right piece. So just concealing that mesh between my main and my lining fabric, and then I'm going to just sew that down. And now you can see that that seam is nicely sandwiched and concealed between my main and lining fabric. So it's a all-in-one. Next thing we're going to do for construction is we are going to attach our back piece, and we're going to use a similar tactic. So we are going to sandwich our front panels in between our back two panels to conceal that seam. And we're going to conceal the seam at the shoulder seams and at the side seams. So you see that I put my lining behind my front piece, and then I put right sides together of my front piece, lining of the back piece, and then right sides together of the front piece. And now we can see that that shoulder seam is nice and concealed, nice and hidden away, as well as the side seams. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is our collar pieces. When I was designing this, I actually cut out pieces of the front and back panel to almost do a color block, to do binding that is essentially like a color block. So I'm cutting two pieces of the front piece and the back piece, and we're going to sandwich it together essentially. And we're going to sew that onto the collar. And then we're going to do essentially fold over elastic. So we're concealing that seam again. So you can see how I've attached the collar pieces, and there are two collar pieces. So it goes collar, our main pattern, and then collar piece together. So we're going to just sew around with elastic, and then you can see that elastic is hidden. And then when we fold up the two pieces of the collar, that elastic is hidden in between. So we essentially have binding without having to use a binder, and this method is really consistent. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to sew on our elastic as if we were doing fold over elastic. So we're sewing the elastic onto the edge as if we're doing fold over elastic, because we are, and then we're going to fold over that elastic, and then we're going to cover stitch that down with our cover stitch machine, or if you have a straight stitch machine, you can use a zigzag stitch. But yeah, so essentially we have our two collar pieces, we fold them up, and then on the wrong side we're sewing our elastic, and then we're going to fold that over and then stitch that down. So what we get is we get binding that is really consistent and high quality without needing a binder, without having to fight with all of that, and we could use a straight stitch machine to do this. Next, we're just going to finish off our armholes and our back opening with fold over elastic. So we're going to attach elastic to the wrong side of our fabric using our elastic foot, And then we're just going to do some fold over elastic, the same method that we used for the binding. So we're just going to fold over that elastic and tack it down. So you could use a cover stitch machine for this, or you could use a straight stitch machine with a zigzag stitch, but great way to finish off our armholes and back opening. I tried to slow this down a bit, but you can see how I'm just folding the elastic underneath, and then I'm lining up the edge of the seam with essentially that right needle. And yeah, we tack that down and we're pretty much almost done. So we got armholes, we got neck hole, we got back opening, and then next we need to do is the waistband. So we're going to use a similar tactic that we used for the binding, and we're going to cut out 2 pieces of our waistband, and we're going to sandwich our pattern, our front and back piece, in between, and then we're going to sew along that seam. So we're essentially going right sides together. We're sandwiching our main pattern piece in between our waistband, and yeah, then we're going to fold open our elastic, and then we're going to do the fold over method again. So we're sewing on our elastic onto the wrong side, and then to finish it off, we're just going to fold it over and then do a cover stitch or zigzag stitch. And essentially we got faux binding, and it was really easy, and the result is really professional in terms of construction. So that's basically it. We have our fold over elastic for our armhole, fold over elastic for our back neck opening, and then we have our waistband, which was really easy to do with the fold over elastic method. So essentially sandwiching our waistband, and yeah, I'll tie it up a little bow and we're good to go. But you can apply the exact same technique without that mesh color blocking in the inside. And yeah, this is the final look. You could play around with the pattern and make it yours. So if you're interested in the open back halter top pattern, please check it out down below. And if you like this tutorial, like and subscribe and try out my slope tools. All right, thanks.